This week we are honoring former Megaphono delegate and friend Daryl Weeks, who lost his life at the festival on February 10th, 2019. Daryl was a famed Canadian music publicist, worked a lot with the Paper Bag Records roster, as well as bands like Blondie, and his all-time favorites, the Charlatans. This week, all Megaphono events are completely free, but we're encouraging donations to two local charities, Shelter Movers Ottawa and the Britannia Woods Community House. All donations being made via Megaphono are being made in Daryl's name. We encourage you to honor his legacy and support two very worthy causes. Next up, we're going to be throwing to Damian Taylor, who is kicking off our panel, Fresh Ways to Find Fans in a Pandemic. Have a great day.
Everyone, how you doing? My name's Damian Taylor. I'm a record producer, all-around studio nerd, and I'm just letting you know, it does say that my name is Gianna Lauren. That's not the case. It was just a link that we had coming in. Anyway, I'm pleased to be joining you to host the Megaphono Virtual Panel number 3, which is all about fresh ways to find fans in a pandemic nonetheless. I'm looking forward to chatting with Lex, Jermaine, and Danny about their journeys over the last year, the ways they've been able to kind of pivot their strategies, embrace the technology, and redefine ways to build an audience in music. So Lex, Danny, and Jermaine, if you guys are cool, I'd like to actually just jump straight in with a lightning round. Maybe if we could have a quick introduction about what you guys are about. But I've been really interested in this question. This last year has really got me thinking about like what even is changed your approach and even the way that you think about fans or an audience. So Danny, can we jump in with you first? And also Danny, by the way, I know you have like a bio that's as long as my arm. You have so many activities in music and online. So if you could just start off by telling people what's been keeping you busy, that would be great.
Oh, for sure. Hi, everybody. It's so great to see so many familiar faces this morning. My name is Danielle Allard. I'm an Ottawa based singer songwriter. I teach by day and I do a lot of, well, now music streaming by night. And I started very quickly. As soon as some of my initial shows were canceled back in March 2020, it took me 24 hours to make the announcement for my first stream, and then it was 24 hours after that announcement that I did my first stream on March 16th, 2020. I was like, how am I going to be without music for more than 3 days? So I immediately started streaming Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and then found my home on Twitch closer to May. So that's where I've been spending the vast majority of my time in this last year. In this last year. And yes, I'm glad that you like welcome to my basement, Kate. And this is something that has just been built in the last year, which you might see a little bit more of at some point, I think, over the course of the day. But it's been quite the adventure as a musician. I was used to performing 5 to 10 times in person per month, typically in kind of small venue, medium venue settings. To now, it feels like it's a much larger forum, especially globally, as we're performing music online. So it's such an honor to be here with Lex and Jermaine and you, Damien. So I look forward to the morning.
Awesome. Nice one. And I got to say, actually, Danny, I raided your stream on your, I was like, I better check out what you're up to. And it was your 1 year anniversary. So congratulations on everything that's been built over the past year. We'll fully dive into that one. But Jermaine, I know you've been working, like doing a ton of work behind the scenes with your roster of artists through your company, Awesome Productions. In particular, Don Valley's been blowing up. So could you just tell us a little bit about what's been keeping you busy this last year?
Happy to. Hi everyone. Hopefully everybody's having a great day. I'm not gonna lie to you, my morning's a little hectic right now. No sleep in New York, trying to figure things out because even though we are talking about fans online, I'm moving the business back into kind of what we had before. My name is Jermaine Clayton. I'm the president and co-founder of Awesome Productions and Management. We're based in Toronto. We have a great roster of singer-songwriters, producers, bands, DJs, I started in the DJ world first and foremost with a few artists, and now I am doing a lot what I can to really help advance what artists can do both online and obviously in person. We also have a great number of young artists that we've started working with, and you brought up Don Valley. Don Valley is a 19-year-old rapper, singer, songwriter, producer, videographer. He does a bunch of great stuff. And I kind of gave him the challenge of, hey, listen, if you really want to see a change in your community, you've got to get and build your own community. And that's kind of what started our relationship and started the build. And we're seeing a great response to that. And that's kind of why I'm in New York right now, because of the work we've been doing during this pandemic, we've been able to actually start outreaching to major labels and start having those conversations. And he started off as an independent artist. And for that, I mean, I'm really happy that I can share some of that information with individuals that are in Ottawa, because, I'm from Ottawa and I love Ottawa. So I wanted to support as much as I can. So happy to be here, guys, and looking forward to having this conversation.
Awesome. Okay, I'm very much looking forward to unpacking a ton of that. And Lex, have you been? I have become very familiar with your flow through everything you're posting online. Your duets and trios and everything are blowing my mind. So it's great to have you here. How's the last year been for you?
Thank you so much for having me. What's up, everyone? My name's Lex Leosis. I'm an MC. I have been rapping for 11 years. And I was in a group called The Sorority with Hawaii Mighty and Keisha Fresh. And recently I've gone solo. I actually dropped my first big project at the beginning of the pandemic, the same day. So that was a little unfortunate. So we always have to adapt though. So I very quickly started, we had to cancel tours and interviews and just readapt on how I was going to find new fans, just kind of launching this big solo career that I had just started. So the timing was not great. I found TikTok through a bunch of my younger cousins. There was a platform that they were all using, and I realized that just seeing a couple other people in the community start taking their talents to TikTok and expanding their fan base there, that I could also grow a whole new platform. And I'm sure, as everybody knows, we've done it before with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and there's always just a new one every year, it seems like. So TikTok was just another challenge. I've been rapping almost every day on TikTok. I've grown my fan base quite a bit, but it's been a really nice way to connect with new people all over the world, and kind of just host virtual shows almost every day from my house. So it's really been a great way to adapt, and I'm learning a lot about just kind of expanding the fan base through that platform. Excited to be here.
Great, nice one, Lex. Can we let's carry straight on with what you're talking about there on TikTok. I will admit to I'm not on the talk, as it were. But what was it about that platform that made you feel that would be a good fit for what you're doing? And then also, how have you found the fan interaction, audience interaction, and kind of getting back to the original lightning round question, how has that changed your outlook about thinking about what is an audience even?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was first drawn to TikTok because I grew up through the ciphers. So it was very common to just get people together and all over the States. I lived in Texas and LA and the Bay Area for different parts of my life. So the cipher is a big deal out there. And that's just a quick way to showcase everyone's talent in the circle. And TikTok kind of felt like the same way to do that, but virtually. So it was really easy to find someone who's playing an instrument or beatboxing or even dancing, and then just kind of cipher with them virtually. So yeah, the fan interaction has been really cool because I feel like you can merge with someone else's fan base as well, which is awesome. There's all these people are always tagging me in videos that I could rap on now. And yeah, just it's not just Toronto, it's everywhere. So now I just have kind of fans all over the world through this kind of niche thing that I'm doing just through the pandemic, which has been really nice. It's been helping my streaming numbers as well.
That's amazing. So that so there's almost like quite a kind of spontaneous aspect to it, and an element of unpredictability, and you can kind of tap into other artists. Pardon me, other places around the world, kind of spontaneously.
Absolutely. And it's also been showcasing the like diversity in my writing because everything's new always. I'm writing on a different style of beat every single day. So I've been getting a lot of like writing gigs through that as well, which has been awesome.
That is very interesting because I think one of the big questions about doing things online is how can you connect an audience that you build on one platform with other aspects of your work. So have you found that things that you're writing on, are those records starting to come out now that you're deeper into the pandemic, or deeper into the whole process?
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely been creating my own music and collaborating with a lot of Toronto artists as well. And I don't want to give any dates away because they're not my dates to give away. But in the next few months, all that music should be coming out, which will be great.
Okay, that's fascinating. Danielle, when you were talking about your massive pivot to streaming online, you mentioned immediately jumping onto, was it Instagram or YouTube or Facebook, or like jumping through a few different platforms before you settled on Twitch. So it was actually amazing. I jumped into your stream right when one of your mods had made you or given you like a happy birthday video. So it's kind of amazing seeing how well your personality suits the Twitch platform. So maybe you could share with us like a little bit about your experiments with the different platforms, what you were looking for, and what it was about Twitch that helped you land on that as your home base.
Certainly. And just as Lex was saying, like we've experienced the other platforms and it's always a new platform every single day. And so I think that my immediate going live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube is because we'd already built our audiences on those platforms. It just seemed to me that first day I was doing it was to just stay connected with friends and family and people and just desperately trying to get everyone through this, and I suppose convince myself that everything was fine in those initial days. It's like, okay, don't worry, we're all still together, it's fine. And so going live on those platforms, but I think that we saw that explosion and the algorithm was loving live in those first couple weeks. So the entire news feed was everybody is live stream, live stream, live stream. And then I think that they realized that they needed to monetize that. So it's like, okay, well, we need to put a stop to showing all these live streams to everybody. We need people to be paying for this. So everybody's numbers were starting to go down on all those platforms. And that was pretty disheartening come May. But one thing I was tasked with was teaching stage performance to a group of people that I'd worked with in person. And now it's like, you're going to do that on Zoom. And I'd found this kind of wonderful escape in March and in April, in that I could still play music with people. And there was this live element where I could still talk to my friends and family. And so I didn't want my students to feel like, let's take a course about what stage performance is going to look like when we can go on a stage again, whenever that's going to be. I wanted to kind of give them this gift that I felt that I had, which was this time with my friends and family in a virtual environment. So I said, okay, we're going to pivot. All that curriculum's going to become live streaming rather than stage performance. And I wanted to go onto Twitch to see what the buttons were. And again, just like Lex, it's through all the young, hip people in my life that were like, you should check out this thing called Twitch. The kids play video games there. But sometimes people stream music. And I said, okay, well, we'll go over there. And I was running this thing that I'd been doing in person for many years. I bring free crafts, we make art, it's beautiful, just called Art Night. So get together, we're gonna do a stream, I'll give you an art prompt, you make some art, cool. But when I went over to Twitch, I discovered that, oh, if you get this one status, you could take people's art and make those the emojis on your channel. I'm like, oh, that's a really cool thing that we can kind of integrate Art Night with, and it'll encourage participation. And then realizing, oh, well, they have this thing where you can actually control song requests. So the people flying through the internet that were just hopping in the chat to scream Freebird at me, they would have a place where they could possibly request Freebird. And if they see that I don't play Freebird, maybe they'll stop yelling it at me. Things like channel points, and then just the gamification of the whole experience, where I felt like people could actually participate in a show in a brand new way that made it easier for me to kind of keep track of the general chaos that was going on. It was just magical from that first moment that I streamed. And it was one of those experiences, having streamed on these platforms with people that I knew, that for the first time, that first stream, there are all of these people there that I didn't know. And I was like, who are you? Why are you spending time with me? And they're like, this is pretty great music. And it just kept growing from there. And I just found that the discoverability was huge. The people that I was meeting from around the world were so lovely. And then not only that, like Damien said, I'm so happy I can put a face. I can put a face to that experience. You raided into a bunch of chaos that day, but the magic of raids, which I was like, this is everything that I was doing before when I was running those art nights. It was to feature another singer-songwriter, another musician that I thought was great, and show people that. So now at the end of a stream, I can click one button and bring all of my friends over to this person that I think is great and say, hello, look at this great person. So it's not only this opportunity to build this amazing community within yourself and your music, but also just the Twitch music community at large, like the macro community of people in there, we really do get to know each other. So the amount of connections that I've made of fellow musicians who are just lovely humans around the world, it's been a crazy adventure.
You mentioned one thing about really good discoverability on Twitch. I'd love you to expand on that because I've found that the word on the street almost seems to be Twitch is like a bad platform for discoverability. Do you think is it your connection to other people as you were just mentioning on the platform, or is it your activities on other platforms that are driving people into Twitch, or have you just found that there have been people who have kind of just landed on your stream and then stuck around?
I have found that because of raids specifically, I went to so many streams to try to learn what people were doing, to try to understand how it is to create content in this environment. And then you just make friends with so many people. So in terms of discoverability on that platform, I mean, my numbers there are higher than any other platform, and I've been there less time than every other space. And I really do think it's mostly through that raid option in the space. But my other social media, just as again Lex was saying earlier, it's really been positively impacted by the community built on Twitch and sent outwards. So I think when you hear discoverability, it's also the fact that the music category is so new on that platform. So people are still learning that that is an option for them in that space. And I think that they're still working out things like tagging and how to categorize things so it'll be easier to find specifically live musicians. So I know there's a big group of people that are working and lobbying for a live music category because of course there's DJs and there's tons of different things. But for me personally, it's been huge in growing a network.
That's awesome. Jermaine, I strategically wanted to come back to you last about talking about platforms because I'm sure with the whole roster you're dealing with, you must need to be across the pros and cons and the strategies for so many different platforms. And then I'm imagining as well, you probably need to figure out how to tailor a strategy for a platform that suits an artist. So what's kind of like the view from the top of the mountain where you are when you look at all these different platforms and strategies and how to integrate them? Oh, we just got you on mute there, buddy.
I got to keep remembering the mute and off mute thing. It's tons of fun. I think one of the things that we're looking with the artists that we work with is less about the platforms and more about building an army. I look at everything that we do with music and with art as making and creating your own small army. And those people go out and they champion you in these different rings, these different ranges. If you're an individual that likes to speak a lot, like you're very well spoken or you're very quick with wit, it might be Twitter. If you are an individual that's more visual, your videos, impactful things, you might use IGTV, you might use Instagram itself. Twitch, as I'm hearing, is very powerful, which is fantastic. TikTok is becoming a great medium if you have, a lot of very small and short but impactful things that can, as people like to say, go viral. But it's really about where does that army live? Like, how do they receive the medium and the information that you're putting out? Sorry, guys. And for the example with Dom, we used TikTok because he found that that was where he was able to really communicate with his fan base. And we went from, I think at the beginning, about 10,000 fans, and now he has over 200,000 fans on TikTok. And the first thing that we thought of doing was, okay, now that we have our army, how can we move them from platform to platform depending on what we were trying to present? So we presented them with a challenge. Hey guys, I'm trying to figure out what music I need to put out. What do you think? And he would play different songs on his TikTok, and his fans and supporters would vote on different things, and they would speak on different things. And they found themselves coming to one song called Tell Me Please. So he said, all right, I need some more reassurance. I need to figure out if this is what I want to do. I need you to fight for me. So if you move over to my Instagram and you start following me there, I'll put this song out just to let me know, like, hey, it's a cold world out here. It's really scary. You let me know that you're really supporting what I'm doing. So right now, at that time, he was around 9,000 fans. He said, if you get me to 20,000 fans, I'll drop the song. He got to 20,000 fans in 3 days because his fans said, we like this song. They responded back to him. That's what I'm talking about in the importance of using that army. We didn't just look at it as what's happening in those spaces. It was more, how can I lend what my talent is in that space? For some people, TikTok isn't for them, and that's fine. For some, Twitch is not for them. Again, that's okay. But it's about figuring out how your medium and what your talent does in that space and in that area. And then from that, converting that area into your small camp for your army. And then just bringing people in, as many people as possible. So for me, that's what we try and look at for artist to artist to artist.
That's wild. And do you build like specific strategies? Like, we always talk about like there's a big goal outcome. Like I'd like to have a huge audience, but then there has to be like, what do I do right now? Especially if you're starting from scratch. Have you found that you tend to choose artists to work with who naturally have an inclination to be able to find those next actions themselves? Or do you sit down and like really get strategic about like, okay, twice a day I want you to do this, 3 times a week we're going to do this, or do you let them just do it spontaneously and tell them it's all, just figure out your own path, but you just got to take it seriously?
I think just like creating music, it's about that brainstorm. We have weekly meetings with every one of our artists. Half of it is the to-do list of things that we have to do, but the other half of it is just simply brainstorming. What are you doing today? Especially during this pandemic, we spent a lot of time connecting one-on-one with our artists. How are you feeling? How's the day? What pissed you off? What made you happy? Right? What are we seeing maybe that's exciting that's happening in the digital space? Is it the surge of TikTok and TikTok music? How does that make you feel as an artist? Is that something where you feel like your music is best served on that platform, and why not? So we had a lot of discussions to really figure out with each artist how they were feeling and where they thought was the best positioning for them during this entire time of pandemic, and not really having to lean on the pillars of what our music industry is, with touring, putting out a record, and doing PR and things like that. So once we figured out what their strengths or where their strengths lie, then we started putting together a challenge. It's always about a challenge, a call to action, like some people call it. What can we do to the small community? It could be 10 people that follow you. It could be 10,000 people that follow you. But how can we empower the people who follow you to do something for you, right? And it's a trade-off. You do something for me, I'll do something for you. Like the example, like I said, about from TikTok to Instagram. If you come here, then I'll put out what you want. But first I need to make sure that you want it, right? A lot of the times I think artists will say, pre-save this and I'll give you X, like merch or tickets or whatnot. But if that fan base doesn't really want it, then what was the point? So it's about communication, as much communication as possible. And then once you figure out, oh, so that's something that's of value to you. Okay, fantastic. Well, this is what I need from you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think a lot of artists and managers and teams sometimes feel if they ask too much of their fans that they'll run away. Well, that's what everyone does. We're asked every day, from advertising to our governments, unfortunately, to every aspect of our lives, to do something for them if it is of value. So I try to make sure that we do that with our brands and with our artists. What's of value? And then let's try to make that challenge. And then once we do that, we scale that to what that end goal is. And that's where our story lies. And then we turn that back to DSPs and to marketing and to PR of this was the story. This is where we started. This was the challenge, and this was our result. Because at the end of the day, that's all they want. They want a story. And that's usually what we do.
That's amazing. And I guess like then do you have like really clear, you know, you're doing these meetings in New York, you must have a boatload of clear metrics that you can move an audience and you can demonstrate like really clear, statistically provable engagement, I guess, which is an incredible asset to have at this point.
Correct.
When you're in this point in negotiations. I'm wondering as well, like when you're asking an audience for something, do you guys believe in the kind of the jab right hook, like give ask, or do you feel like you need to hit a threshold before you start asking for things, or is it just very spontaneous when you're having your brainstorms with the artists? Do you kind of design, these are the things that we're going to ask, and you build up to those, or do you think needing to artificially kind of generate, well, I'm going to give before I do this, is that almost a bit too contrived and a bit less spontaneous? Is it just more about being just very open about this is what we're trying to do?
Was that to the group or?
That was for you specifically, because you had mentioned you know, not being afraid to ask for things, which I think is a really great point. Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be something that is boxed in. Like it should come as an organic conversation. It does take time. It's not something that happens automatically. I think for some, it's a lot of giving of yourself. So it could be showcasing. For example, we manage another artist named Dylan Sinclair, fantastic singer-songwriter from Toronto. We did in the beginning, just before we put out his records, a lot of just covers of like small snippet covers, just to let people know, hey, this is a talent. This is what I do. This is who I am, right? Not asking for anything. We didn't make our first ask until maybe after the first EP, where we said, here's our merch. Would you buy it? And there was a resounding yes. Even though at this entire time, we could have done a lot of different asks from the fan base, but we wanted to make sure that there was something that was of value. We created the value for ourselves. So it really depends. With Dom, we did something similar. We've started off first just doing a lot of freestyles on TikTok, just showcasing, right? This is what I am, this is what I do, this is what I am, this is what I do. And it really depends on that relationship. However, on the flip side, I've seen examples where you have artists like a really talented musician named Matisse. He started his own show called Low Key. He did Low Key in the Park, and it was just a direct ask. Hey guys, do you like this style of music? Well, if you do, this is what I'm doing. I'm putting on a show in the park. Come and see it. And people wanted that because it was something that automatically people had desired and wanted. So it really depends on what type of asks that you're putting out there, but then also what you're willing to give. Because also in my opinion, I do think that a lot of the times managers and labels are asking, especially in a time where we're all confined to putting things out on Instagram or YouTube or whatnot, they're always asking, well, you need to feed the meat, you need to feed the meter, feed the machine, you need as much content as possible. I don't believe that. It really depends on that artist. Maybe they might feel like giving up so much of themselves might be too much. So I think it really depends, right? It really depends on that artist.
Amazing. Love it. Love it. Incidentally, Kate Killett, I just saw you were in the chat. Kate, if you're the same Kate who did some write-ups for Petra Glint, just wanted to say hi and thanks for the support. I released Petra Glint's album a couple of years back. Lex, I'm really curious, just, you know, running off what Jermaine's been sharing about his bigger strategies, like on TikTok, you mentioned you've opened up this incredible vein of collaborations with people. You know, your freestyles are, I guess, would it be safe to say like the main driver of your work on TikTok, but are you kind of deliberately trying to bring in other aspects, other methods of engagement? And I also have this background question, which is like, how did you, well, you know what, let's keep it focused there. We'll come back to the other background question. We've got plenty of time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I liked what Jermaine was saying about like keeping it organic. And that's kind of how like I ended up on TikTok, was just like, it just felt like I was already doing freestyles and free verses on my Instagram story, because I write every day. And that's something that people know about me, is that I'm always working on my craft. And so that had already started with my like core base of fans. And then TikTok was just a natural platform to be able to do that, especially like finding new production and new people to collaborate with. So it felt very organic. And then it just was something that I was able to keep up with every day. Like it just felt, yeah, very like organic, and I was already writing. It was like, I might as well just film it and put it on TikTok. And then I started meeting a lot of people around the world, other artists who were just as passionate and interested in creating new things. And especially, I feel like there was this kind of unspoken thing with artists in the pandemic, that we were all just willing to try new things, and kind of like branch open. And so people were like, oh yeah, like I don't really like play guitar, but I just made this beat with like, I played the guitar myself and sampled it. And it was kind of this experimental thing that I really liked. And there was a YouTube era that was like that as well. And that was the like era that I started rapping in, that like 2010 to 15 era, where there were a lot of like rap ciphers on YouTube. And I met a lot of the people that I'm super close with now on that platform. So TikTok just kind of felt like this like rebirth of that. And yeah, the freestyles and the free verses that I put up there are just fun in a way to keep my pen active. But it's also very like a low stake thing that I'm able to do every day, because like everyone else, I'm a human being and I have like ups and downs during this pandemic. So it was just one thing that I didn't have to like curate so much or like put so much effort into. It's like, oh, like I'm just rapping like every other day and I can just do it on this platform. So it felt like very low stakes and very like easy to keep up with. And then when it was time recently to release my actual music, like Jermaine said, I hadn't really been asking people for anything. I was just giving, like here's a freestyle every day for the last few months. So when it was time to release music, everybody was like super willing to pre-save. They followed me to Instagram. It was super easy to get people into different platforms, and to pre-save the link. And my streams were higher than ever in my whole career before. And so that was really nice too. And I had the kind of story as well, moving from the sorority to my own stuff. People were already interested in what I was going to be doing. So that helped as well.
That's awesome. And so I really like what you're saying about feeling like the freestyles and the regular posting are low stakes. I think like I've seen a lot of artists get really caught up with feeling everything they do or everything they need to post kind of has to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Or like everything you release in the world needs to be a masterpiece. You obviously are very, very talented on your freestyle, so there's no doubt. I'm sure even like your bad days are great. But how does that feel like different to you, just sharing something spontaneously like that that's still within your artistry, as opposed to crafting a record?
Yeah, it's been a really nice change. And I feel like my manager's so happy, because I always wanted to do ciphers. Even when I started making music, I still wanted to do like local ciphers in the cities and stuff like that, which was really different from my actual music. So it's kind of like solved this itch that I've had to always just like keep up the bars and the pens while being able to like really brand my music as something different. So that's been nice as well. But yeah, just like Kate was saying in the chat, like things are just more raw on that platform, and they don't have to be as curated. And those things, especially for artists that like are perfectionist, what I feel like is all of us, is it's just really easy to be like, oh, like yesterday I was like, oh, here's someone in Russia who's doing this footwork and the beat's cool and it doesn't have any lyrics on it. Like, let me just put up, I think it was like 6 bars, you know, it wasn't even like a full half verse. So that's just been really cool as well too, because it doesn't have to be like this full verse or this full song with the hook. And then now I'm thinking about like switching out the instruments, or is it mixed well? Like I'm literally just rapping into Apple headphones. So it just feels like people are with you in your house, and they're like really getting to see this kind of like BTS behind the scenes like version of you, that is super simple to create, like maybe an hour of my day, you know?
That's great. And do you find being able to create as regularly in that context, does that make it easier to then create different aspects of your kind of artistic portfolio, as opposed to like you're trying to do something heavy duty, but you're going from a standing start, you're out of practice, you're a bit rusty or something like that?
Yeah, I would say that I'm a little bit different in this way because I've always been like I come from like a cooking background, and cooks work really long hours. And I always attribute that to like the discipline that it takes to just like stay in the studio for 15 hours and not leave until like you've written something. So I've always been like pretty disciplined in that regard. But if anything, TikTok has given me this like lighter, like more fun version of my craft, and to not take it so like seriously in all regards, and that there can be this like very fun, organic, like light side of things, and it doesn't have to be so like rigid and like we clock in here and we clock out here and we got to make 5 songs this month and that kind of vibe.
I love it. That's great. Danny, can I ask you a little bit more about this extensive field of activities you're doing? And I found it fascinating from seeing your Twitch streams and also just from like checking out your Twitter, how it's almost like you found a way to share a lot more about yourself than you might just share if you were only a recording artist. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone knows, for example, you're one of the world's preeminent dinosaur lovers. And that's become like a really kind of key focus for your audience on your streams. So, I mean, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this point in internet history, and how it's almost like by sharing more of yourself, more of the things you're into, your music can feel a lot more integrated into the entirety of your life. And in many ways as well, I feel it actually gives you like a broader wavelength for people to match up with you. Like you might have a dinosaur lover who comes into your Twitch stream and then gets into your music, or you might have a music lover who then really discovers their love of Stegosaurus or something like that.
Which I think both have happened, perhaps simultaneously, throughout the course of this year. And I was somebody who, in my online presence, I actually had 2 separate accounts for a really long time. So I'd be, this is teacher me, and over here, this is music me. But more and more, my students were Googling me mid-semester, and I couldn't keep the 2 of them separate. And I was like, you know what, this is more work than anything. And then just blending both of them and deciding that I am just all of these things. And I just need to embrace that. It led to me actually teaching in the areas that I do specialize in outside of class time, and it led to, I think, a much more human version of me. So that really spoke to me when Lex was talking about, yeah, it's like this behind the scenes. You're really letting people into that process, and I gotta say, I'm significantly more open about a lot of aspects of my life this year than I was before. I mean, my socials used to be a lot of like, this is me with my guitar at this venue. This is me with my guitar at another venue. And then I think that content also kind of gets boring for people. They want to connect with the human that you actually are. So that took a lot of work to embrace those mistakes. We're all used to practicing until our fingers are bleeding for the show that's happening the day after, and praying that it goes perfectly. And I've had to let go of so much of that, not only as a live performer. I mean, we all get used to those kind of technical issues when we're live on stage, and you've normally got people who can help you with that. But this year, the amount of technical issues that happened in the beginning forced me to kind of let go of that. I was like, well, at least I've still got the perfect pre-rehearsed music, and that's what I've got. But as I was moving towards that kind of Twitch partnership, they're kind of expecting that you're going to be streaming for 3 days a week. As things were starting to get more and more wild, I mean, you're usually kind of working this priority request system where people are donating and they're looking to request a song from the list. So all of a sudden you're going from like your 45-minute show that you'd be doing on stage to 3 to 5 hours hanging out in your basement with people. So you've got to really be okay with people knowing you, because in 3 to 5 hours, like, you're gonna see me in some of the most stressful situations I've ever been in. Oh, the camera's not working and I don't know why, and let me just be my own producer, broadcaster, audio engineer, and figure out why none of these buttons are working ever. But it's been one of the most rewarding experiences because in a time when I was just really desperate for human connection, it's like I'm just letting everybody see me as a human, recognizing that they're human too, and it really resonated with me when Lex was talking about like not necessarily releasing your most professional work, that thing that you've obsessed over and tried. I mean, we make an album and we can't listen to it for a year because all you're going to hear are their mistakes. You're like, maybe I'll listen to it in the background of a coffee shop one day and I'll be okay with this thing that I made. But in this format, like you're seeing me for 3 to 5 hours, I'm gonna make mistakes. And at first they were tech, and as people kept coming to shows over and over, I'm like, how are you not bored of me? All I know are these 60 songs, and you're requesting them over and over. So then I felt, well, I should probably add some new songs to the list, but I'm spending so much time performing. When is there time to learn music? And I've seen this thing that people were doing on Twitch called live learns. And people were literally giving them lots of money to learn their favorite song live on the spot. And I was like, you not only want to listen to music that they don't even know, but you want to give them extra money for that music? What is happening right now? And it's something that still makes me so nervous that I have to lock down the queue for a day. And it's just on Sundays that we make art. And I say, if you're having a bad mental health day, join us. Here's your art prompt. You can make art for the first time. If you think that's scary, I'm about to play this song I don't know in front of 150 people. So it's kind of this exchange where I want you to go do something scary because I'm going to do something terrifying in front of all of you right now. And people really connect with that because we're all human in the end. As much as artists, we want to show the best, most polished performance, show them the most incredible things that we're able to do. People also want to see the human. And then people love to join me specifically on Sundays to watch me struggle, to watch me press buttons wrong, to watch me make mistakes. And they love to see the learning process. And I'm still trying to understand the psychology behind that. But but people really do. And I mean, every time something goes wrong, there's a group of people there that are celebrating those moments. So it does make it much less scary as an artist. I'm much less nervous for those Sundays because I know that there's people there that are celebrating all of the jazz notes. That's what we call them now. All of the most terrible things you don't want to happen to your ears. They're just jazz notes. It's fine. They're not mistakes. But people want to see that because they can actually connect with that. It's easier to connect with that than it is a virtuoso, and that's kind of that thing that we can do online with people for the first time.
Yeah, I gotta say, I saw one of your posts about the live learns. And I was like, oh, that's pretty wild. That's kind of interesting. But I think with my streams, I've wound up experiencing the same with a lot of people. I remember the first, like, I do a thing. I set a timer. It's like have to make a beat, and it can be anything,
Mhm.
entirely detached from whether it's good or not, and just getting
Mhm.
used to making noise and sharing stuff and being okay with the fact that it might suck. And then yeah, it's you really do learn a lot about yourself, but it really struck me as being quite different to what I thought doing Twitch or doing streaming would be about.
Mhm.
Um, so I have another question for you, Danny, and then for everyone on here, Lex and Jermaine, which is I mean, Danny, you mentioned you had like your 45-minute set and then realized, oh, in this context, it's much more about actually basically hanging out with people for hours at a time.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
m- how have like your preconceptions, I don't know if you can remember back to the mists of early 2020, but have your preconceptions about like what the next year was going to look like compared to what I think is a very positive reality of connecting to all these people, and how does the landscape look different to you now? And also coming back to my original question, which is like, how has your thoughts about like what an audience actually is changed?
I've told a few people this year that I think the only reason why all of this craziness is happening is I must be in a coma. That's the only explanation for the really positive things that have come out of this year. I mean, we've all experienced a whole lot of trauma this year, but the positive aspect of I never knew that this was waiting for me. And the only thing that pushed me to go do that very scary thing was desperately wanting to be connected with people. And now realizing that it's not just in the coffee shops and the medium sized venues in Ottawa that I can connect with people, but with people around the world. And I know that this kind of blend with tech and my own performance is going to be something that I'm doing in the future. So in my live performances of the future, I'm hoping to have a projector with my Twitch chat there. So if I've got a theater full of people I can't actually talk to, I can still have a cell phone in their hands and they can still be actually talking to me one on one, even in a room full of 500 people. And what a magical experience that can be. What I think is so great is that you have, as Jermaine was saying, that access to a huge group of people that are just so crazy supportive, but not only that you have their support and that kind of gives you that that momentum as an artist to keep going through the rejection and the difficulties that you face every single day in this industry. You've also got the ability to tap directly into them and ask them what it is that they're looking for, and that can also help influence what it is you decide to do next. So in terms of the future, I think that it's looking pretty bright.
That's great. Jermaine, just kind of dovetailing into that. You know, when you were first talking to us about it's like a case of mobilizing an army, like we're talking about how the online audience now as a result of the last year can really open up possibilities. But I get a sense with you that you're really connected to almost like the fundamentals of understanding how an audience and an artist interact. So do you feel like this past year has been like a complete tearing up of the rule book and discovering everything new? Or were you much more like, there are these fundamentals that I need to apply to help my artists build their careers, and I'm just going to use this new set of tools, or we're going to focus more heavily on this set of tools as a result?
I think it's a bit of both. I think you have elements of what has really created some of the great artists that we look up to in our industry. In that, before, when you used to do and play small venues, or go across Canada or across North America or Europe, it wasn't about playing the big show. It was about connecting in every city with 5, 10, 50 people who might have heard of you before, or you have the opportunity of gaining through your music and through your medium. And I think that that is a part of what's great about online and fan-based connections and connectivity. However, there's a lot of individuals who are so kind of pigeonholed towards what it used to be that they don't see the ability of constantly being able to create at rapid speeds new content and new ways to really interact with that fan base. So it really is a merger of the two. I do believe that, unfortunately, because of this, streaming service and playlisting, people think, well, I don't really need to work on honing my fan base. I'll just put it on Spotify, I'll put it on Apple, it'll do 100 million streams. I'll go on tour and everybody will like me. Well, why would they like you? Who are you? Do they know you? Do they know what you're into? Do they know anything? Well, no, because you didn't spend a lot of time really trying to invest in that part. So what I think, and trust me, there's not too many upsides to the last year and a half, but one of the things I think was great was it gave artists a chance to really go back to that. Let me connect one-on-one with individuals. Let me try and create that relationship. And one of the things that we did for that and really growing and nurturing that was we did a meet and greet. But instead of making that meet and greet a paid meet and greet, we did free. Just, hey, DM me and I'll give you the link and we'll set that up. And that was with Don Valley. And that meet and greet, at one point, or one of the meet and greets went for 2 hours. He said, guys, I got to hop off. Like, I'm jumping off. I got some other things to do. And the fans stayed to talk with each other, to create their own, like I said, army, because they had commonalities. I'm sure some of them were sick of sitting and talking to their same friends or talking to their family. And they just want to connect with other people. But we created a space so that they could do that. That's what shows used to be. We used to show up and we'd all be a fan of Artist X. And maybe that was the only thing that we knew of each other. And maybe that's how you met certain friends that you know now, or relationships or anything like that. We need to get back to that. And this is a great way of doing that with online and fan engagement.
Do you mind if I ask how, with the meet and greet, what, like technically, how did you do it? Was it just like a massive Zoom call, or was it, how
We
did
used
that
Google
go
Meet.
down?
We used Google Meet.
Amazing. So just if people DM'd your artists and they could get a link and then all turn up, and that's amazing. That's really, really
Correct.
smart. I love it. Nice. Lex, just on that vibe, like I'm interested about your, how has this one-on-one connection gone for you? Do you do one-on-one connection, or does it tend to be much more like posting than responding to comments directly? I have found that fascinating, the times where I've, I don't have a ginormatron online presence, but if I deliberately sit down, and anyone who follows me on Instagram, if I just DM them back, it's phenomenal seeing both how many fascinating people you meet and then how much more engaged people are as a result. But how's that balanced out with you, just like broadband posting, shall we say, versus, direct connections?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm finding Instagram in particular has been really nice for connection right now. I'm talking to a lot of people from all over who really like my stuff and who I've been learning instruments during the pandemic. So I've also been really honest about that process and like what it looks like. So I've been putting up in my Instagram stories, like me just failing awfully at the MPD and the bass and the piano, like throughout this whole year. So that has kind of created this new thing with my fans where, I think they just felt a little bit more comfortable to like reach out and to have a conversation and to just see me as a human. And I think for a lot of those people, it has given them the confidence to just like start something new, or that's what they've been telling me at least. And because I think it looks like what we do is really like hard and like out of reach sometimes, because that's how the music industry has like painted it, right? Is like these people are special or they're chosen. And in some regards, like, yeah, that's true. They work really hard at what they do. And because of that, they're special and chosen. But it's also like really accessible. And I wanted that to be honest, because I teach this program called MC Rec Shop. Where young kids learn how like about hip hop history all the way until performance and recording themselves at home. And there's different teachers through the program. And it's always just been really important for me to be really honest that like, if this is something you want to do, like you could start today, but you got to start. And it's like only you that's going to be able to do it. So that has been this really cool connection through TikTok and especially Instagram though. I've been like taking my TikToks, downloading them and putting them on my Instagram as well to like kind of engage both platforms. And that has been this really cool way for people to reach out to me and like talk about like, how do you freestyle or where should I start? And just kind of giving like same kind of thing that you were talking about, the live learns. It's just like this, oh, I'm watching someone fail and like do it. It's not like they're this like magical human being that's so good at what they do and like it's always perfect. It's like, no, a lot of the time we struggle behind the scene. And when people come to your show, they just see the curated show, and then they maybe meet you after when they buy your merch or something, and you have a 2-minute conversation. So you're still this like mythical artist that's like kind of out of reach, that they just get this moment with, which is like a cool strategy for some times of life. But this has been like this really cool, humbling process because you're just like really connecting with people and like building a relationship with your fans that like goes deeper than like, I like to watch this person rap or sing or do a thing,
That's great. I love it. And do you feel like overall Instagram is a place where you can do the one-to-one connection a lot more easily than TikTok? Like, is it like with the DMs or even just like responding to comments, is it just a bit more interactive that way?
I think TikTok's really good for like massive reach of people because a lot of the like people will comment like something negative or positive, and then other people will like argue with that person in the comments or like the thing. And there's like a lot of engagement that way. But as far as like direct like DM messages, like hundreds of Instagram messages all the time, just like especially populating that story. I don't post a lot on my feed, but I post a lot on my story. And I feel like that's like a cool way for people to, interact with me or like send a message or like, I'm doing this with my day too, or like, oh, I'm really bad at the MPD as well. And then it's like, I loved your new single. And you just have this like really quick conversation with people. And it feels kind of like Messenger for me. Like, it's just like,
Okay, cool.
On my phone, like I can do this. I can give 30 minutes a day to this, just answering people.
That's really cool. Love it. Danielle, on the talking with your audience front, how are you finding Twitch chat? Like, I'm streaming. I think I'm averaging like a stream will be like 30 to 70 people or whatever. And in general, most of the time I'm able to keep up with the chat. But I think that there's that thing when I go in and see bigger streamers where their chat's just like, do you know what I mean? So I'm wondering like how you balance that. What must be like some really strong one-on-one connections that you have with people who've been in your community for a long time. How does that almost like the shifting tides of chat engagement work for you? Like if you're playing a song, do you just let the chat go? Do you rewind? What's your strategies on that whole chat front?
Well, in the beginning, I could keep up with everything. It was wonderful. But now, on average, there's usually 4,500 to 5,000 comments per stream. And it does sometimes go too fast for me to keep up. But one thing that happens when you're doing this faster and faster, you do start to be able to kind of read around things. Like your brain just automatically like, oh, I'm going to skip that line because it's just emojis, or I'm going to skip this because I automatically see a tag. And one thing, like you were talking about, the before show and the after show piece, that's so important. Something that's so precious to me is my time before the stream. So me setting everything up is typically going to take me like 30 minutes, testing everything, making sure that it's good. And while I'm doing that, I've got my chat open because I'm just prepping everything digitally as well. There's always lovely people, like James is here, and he's talking about camping. So we call them campers, is people who are just hanging out in the chat before the show, saying hi, wishing the artist well. And that means so much to somebody who's about to press that
So
button. It's
so that's
so
before you
huge.
even go live. There's people just hanging out
Hmm.
in the chat. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So when you're on a schedule, people know the schedule. They know you're about to go live. I'm somebody who's always live the minute that I'm supposed to be. So they know that they can find me there usually a half hour before. Because I can host people who are offline, I'll normally find somebody great so that we can watch their show while we're getting ready for our own. And I've got kind of like these little stop motion dinosaur videos at the beginning and the end. So it's like this idea that people are physically coming to the show with me. So the dinosaurs are all getting on a little bus. They're coming to the show with me. They all look a little bit something like this. Because as an artist, I was so completely blown away by the fact that anybody would want to spend money to subscribe. That's crazy to me. That was something that I'm still dealing with strange feelings around, and I wanted this kind of physical representation. Like, you don't understand how much it means to me. Like, you are physically doing this with me. If you're going to be financially supporting this, like, you are here hanging out with me making this happen. So all the little dinosaurs get in the bus, and then at the end, like, we go on a raid. So we all get back on the bus together. There are snacks. Like, it's just this kind of hilarious role playing thing that we do. Those moments are so important for the whole community, and I love them so much. But outside of that, we also have a community Discord. So that started again post stream. It was everybody just asking. So a lot of the stuff that's kind of happened this year is somebody asked for it, and I just figured out how to make it happen. And the Discord has grown to be so gigantic as well. And it's just this space. I mean, we've got areas for people who like food, books, music. So everybody's just there talking all the time. It's usually too much for even me to keep up with, even offline. It's just so many different conversations happening, and it's just a place for the community to be. And I created that even just because I wanted one place where people could tag me in art. I was originally, for those art nights, giving away download codes for anybody who would submit for art night. And then it's just like they're tagging me. Sometimes they're using a hashtag on Instagram, sometimes they're DMing me on Facebook. I'm like, I can't keep track of this anymore. So Discord. But it just became so much more of an important community space. Don't feel pressured to keep up with the chat always. People who care about you will know that you can't. But I do find it important to welcome people in when I see them. I try to acknowledge towards the end. Even crazier streams, like for a raid like what you gave. I would normally play a song or play an instrument or something, but sometimes it's just complete chaos that you just can't. So I think most people recognize, are like, wow, you're one person doing all of this. I'll catch you later on Discord if I have an important question. We even set aside time on stream. I call it tea time, where I actually sit down and I say, okay, questions are open. You can use channel points to redeem a question, because then it'll create a queue of questions so I can actually see them, instead of just the chat being like the whole stream while you're trying to play. Sometimes I'll actually sing responses mid-song if it's that important that I need to acknowledge it in the middle of the song.
Nice. I don't want to turn this into a full-on Twitch nerdery, but I have no idea how to use channel points, so that's really interesting with the questions. Any other like big kind of things that are really specific to Twitch technologically that kind of blew your mind, and that you were able to use in a way that you wouldn't have ever imagined coming from a traditional music background?
Well, I mean, just the way that you're able to monetize things, and the gamification of audience engagement. Every time somebody does something, like if I flip over, then you're going to see that there is an event list, that there's all of these things that kind of populate, and those are all the things that they have control over. I mean, you can integrate sounds and videos to be played when people do certain actions. People sometimes have like secret bit alerts that if they give a certain amount and donate a certain amount, then that'll trigger a certain alert. Like there's so many crazy things that you can do apart from subscribing and having the internal currency that you're cheering that artist. All of those things were huge for me, and I didn't like I love to cause that chaos in other streams as well. I mean, that's the point at the end of our stream, is we're going to try to trigger a level 5 hype train, and that just means it's actual financial support for whatever artists we go and we see. And so my whole community, it's extra chaotic because I'm pretty chaotic that way. But the goal is to just overwhelm. So every time we go into somebody's stream, they honestly say that they don't know what's going on. They can't keep up with the alerts. They certainly can't keep up with the chat. And that's intentional, because at the end we just want them to feel an enormous amount of love all at once. And yeah, hype trains are great. We can nerd out on this for many years, but I'm more than happy to meet with you if you've got questions about
Awesome.
OBS. I know Kate had some questions, and you, Damien. Yeah.
Nice, thanks. I think there's something really fascinating about those real-time interaction things, whether it's Twitch or doing an IG live or anything else, where it's like you can actually see the person responding in real time to what's happening. And I love your specific use of the word chaos on Twitch. Yeah, especially like I still consider myself a noob in terms of the language. But it's like sometimes when you have like a crazy noise go off that was just as a result of your, I use stream elements, and some noise happens. I remember the first time like I got raid, I had no idea what was going on, and took me a long time to figure it out.
It's always
Jermaine.
wholesome chaos. Always
Yeah,
wholesome
totally,
chaos.
always wholesome. So, Jermaine, oh, actually, sorry, for our organizers, are we wrapping up on the hour, or are we going to half past? If you don't mind just throwing in the chat. Sorry to be a little bit, okay, we're going to half past. Okay, great. Thank you, John. Jermaine, we were just talking to, we were just talking to Danny about like, her ability to monetize her audience. You are now in New York largely as a result of your ability to grow an audience. How do you kind of flip like the online fan building into a part of your strategy just as a businessman?
Are you asking in general or?
Well, a bit of both. I mean, obviously, an audience is huge. We all know now that like labels and publishers, the first thing they're going to do is check your numbers. But I guess like you mentioned with Dom, like you guys dropped a song. I'm assuming you dropped that song independently when he hit his Instagram follower targets. But when you're going in and meeting with labels now, are you waiting till you hit a specific point where you feel you've got the leverage? You mentioned merch drops as well. There's, I guess, just so many different ways that you can do things completely independently or with partners now.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell people like hit 1 million fans and then go and try and sell it to a major label. I mean, it really depends on the artist, it depends on the team, it depends on what your goals are. But I do believe that there needs to be a set game plan as far as internally what happens. So if it's, hey, once we hit 20,000 fans, we're going to start putting the record out, tell the story. Let the story start living to, I think I spoke about that a little bit, to the DSPs. I know that Spotify and Apple and Amazon, their number one question that they ask artists are, well, what are you doing outside of streams? Why should we care? This is how you have them care, because you're taking something that's just like a live show and you're being able to revert that to streams and saying, all right, we had a group of fans, now they're over here, this is the numbers that they're doing, and this is why. The why is the important aspect for the DSPs and for PR, because that's why they will continue to champion. And now hopefully that will help you grow your brand as an overall. That will then hopefully lead to labels, be it major labels or even distribution companies like, or artist service companies like AWOL, to get involved and say, hey, like, we hear the story, we love the story, we'd love to amplify it. I think that is the most important thing. It's not about the end goal of selling, but amplification. Every step for an artist is moving to the next bit and not about the end goal, right? And even to me, major label signing is just amplification. It's just another step. It's not the end, even close to the end. So to answer your question, it's less about what number do we get before then we, bring this and shop this around, and more what gets us to that next step so that our story is heard by other individuals or told by other individuals. That to me is the most important thing, and that's what we target for any of our artists.
That's an amazing way to sum it up. I'm curious as well, with the amount of tools that artists and their teams have at their disposal now, do you feel that there's just a ton more options for how to build someone's career? Like if you hit a point where you've got amazing audience engagement, your numbers are doing really well, do you need a major label, for example? I'm sure it's always case by case, but does the landscape feel different now compared to, say, 10 years ago, where you can just do so much more independently?
I think the landscape, in my opinion, has changed in the fact that anyone with Google and YouTube can learn how to do it. But I do believe that there's always been a level of DIY in the music business. I used to have a best friend, and his brother had a punk band, and they were probably some of the best road warriors I'd ever seen. Great as far as, making their own CDs, their own posters, their own T-shirts, selling it, and they made great money. Did they become famous? No, but that wasn't their goal. It was amplification, and they did a great job of it. We're just at a point where just about anyone can be at that level. It used to take a certain level of ingenuity and that desire to really make it to have that hustle. Now, I mean, it's synonymous. Everybody believes that they've got hustle if they've got Twitter and they've got Instagram and they can just, run and gun it. So that I think is great, because I don't believe that it's something that needs to be to a small number of individuals. But I don't think that there's that much of a change between the industry then and the industry now, as far as the ability to do it yourself before you get to a label. Because I think one of the things we're starting to realize is that labels, managers even, and publishers, we're looking for that ingenuity from an artist. That's what makes them special. And that's what we can help amplify and grow. If it's all about us doing everything, well then, I mean, why do we need the artist? And that's not something that I want to ever be involved in. I want to be with artists and teams that are ready to get their hands dirty and really create and grow. And this, especially this conversation, the individuals that are in this chat, this is a testament of the fact that artists and teams aren't waiting for somebody else to figure it out. We're trying to figure it out ourselves. And that's by being on these panels, that's by trying new things, seeing what sticks. And that's what makes this really great and interesting.
Awesome. I really love your use of the word amplify. I think that it's a one-word summary of a concept I've been trying to explain to so many people. I have a ton of people come into my Twitch stream when I'm doing especially track feedback streams, and they're just going, what do I need to do to make a label sign me? And I kind of feel like that's a little bit beside the point. It's like, what are you doing naturally? And I just think your use of the word amplify is so perfect, because if there's no signal there, like 0 times 100 is still going to be 0. if there's not that story around it. So thanks for summing that up so beautifully. Lex, can we talk about, like, you mentioned your manager earlier. Can we talk a little bit about, like, have there been specific, like, longer term strategies about the way you guys are working at the moment? And also, I wanted to come back to that little story you mentioned about your project dropping the day of lockdown, and how, you know, have you been able to still, like, push that project, or are you just like, it happened, you know, we're looking forward? So what, you know, strategically, not necessarily just with your actions online, but how are you guys looking to the future at the moment?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely been a long-term goal for us, at least. My manager was the manager of the sorority, and we decided that we would work together in a long-term strategy because he, in his words, he really liked my work ethic, and I was always like making music. Like when we were planning a tour all by ourselves, I was at the coffee shop with him, writing down all the things that needed to happen and calling people and making it work. And I've always been doing this alone. So when he said that he wanted to manage me, I was like, this is exciting, because I trusted him and he had a lot of insight, and we've been growing together. But our plan is definitely a long-term plan, and it has been, and it's been really hard for me to be patient through all of this, knowing that it's just a step-by-step thing. And I like to be really honest. Like when I dropped my album in 2020, Mythologies, and I had to cancel everything, I got a customer service job. Like I was a courier. I worked at the 55 hours a week for until August 2020, and then I worked customer service on the phone. So like in 2019, we were playing, like opening up for Wu-Tang and Snoop Dogg and selling out 5,000 crowd venues. And then I was working as a courier again. So it was like very humbling process. And I think it's just like a really nice reminder, at least for me, that like it's not always up, you know, like sometimes like things have to get back down to a level, and you have to put in the work again and then grow again and restart and revamp your process. But yeah, with Mythologies, we did the best that we could. We did like some live stream stuff. We did so yeah, we had some like playlist support and some like really great things, and it was a really great project. But at that point, I had been working on that project for like a year and a half. And then when we dropped it during the pandemic, I was already making new music, which I'm dropping currently right now. So I was like, as an artist, like mentally over that project. And it was hard to try to push it, especially during the circumstances where like I couldn't push it in a new way, like playing shows or doing interviews or anything that we had lined up. It was like, oh, okay, now I just have to like talk to my fans and do live streams and kind of readjust. And it was so sudden too, because it dropped on the day that it happened. It was like we were canceling things that were happening 2 days later, you know, like I had no idea how to readjust. And so that was definitely took me for a loop, but it made me creative in other ways, which I'm thankful for. And it made me really hungry again. Like I just had this, like, I got like comfortable, you know, like we were going up. And then with my solo career, I was like, I had just established all of this stuff within a group. And now my solo career, I'll just keep going up. And I had to refocus on like, nah, we're starting from number one, day one again. So that was a really humbling process. And I think now with my music being out, we're dropping a new EP on July 9th called Terracotta. And I'm really like excited about this music because I've had so much time with it, because I wasn't touring, which was my bread and butter before. Like if I wasn't on a stage, I wasn't making money. So now I've just been able to sit with this process and learn instruments and take on a production role for my album and just really like hone in on all the things that I was missing as an artist. So it kind of filled in those pieces, which has been really beautiful for me.
That's wild. I love here just talking about kind of rebuilding. And just to recap, like you started from scratch on TikTok during the pandemic, right? So
2 months ago, yeah.
Right. Okay. Hang on. Sorry, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So how did it feel like seeing just like a big zero on your follower numbers when you started? Was that like a challenge? Were you kind of like, oh, or how did that feel to you?
Yeah, it felt like I'm always down to start again and start new things. So I just knew that this was, again, like we were talking about before, another platform that I had to grow. And then I had like one of my TikToks do 1 million plays. And so I got instantly 5,000 people like kind of overnight, which was really nice. And then those people were able to realize that I was doing this every single day. It wasn't like it was just one-off things here and there. It was like, you can come to my TikTok and there will be a new thing every day. So that I started to grow a relationship with those people. And again, TikTok's kind of volatile, whereas like you could have 1 million plays on a video and then the next day it's like 500 people watched it. So it's cool as far as like testing out the virality of things and like the attention spans and like the styles as well, because I grew up in the cypher area, and then I was doing the group thing, and then I was making my own music. I had a lot of different styles of music that I can do, but it doesn't mean I need to do it or that people are receiving it. So it was nice to be able to test out different styles of music on that audience to see what people really liked from me, and then be able to hone that into an EP, an album. And I was able to test out verses from my album on different TikTok beats and just see how they went over. So there's like a few verses on my album that are already on TikTok that have already kind of gone viral and blown up, and people have memorized and tweeted me and stuff like that. So it's like they already know the lyrics to some of my stuff before it's going to come out, and that's exciting too.
That's wild. And you were mentioning like one day you might get 1 million plays. Oh, sorry, Jermaine, were you gonna say something?
No, so that's fire.
Another astute observation. I love it. You're just mentioning one day you might get 1 million views, then the next day it's 500. Is that like on different content? Or I mean, my question here really is, do you feel that every piece of content you put out on TikTok will algorithmically go through the same process? So if you get a different bit of numbers feedback, how seriously do you take it as like this is validation versus different numbers, or are there other ways that you measure engagement?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because there's like videos that are kind of bait, right? So like the video that went to 1 million streams was these guys, they were breaking down a dance choreography to a Snoop Dogg song. And so as they were breaking it down over the instrumental, I was breaking down rap lyrics. So I started off with like shook, book, look, and then I kept building on until I was rapping a whole verse. And so like people were like, oh, this like white girl Dr. Seuss rapper, like they were like cheese, some people, and then other people were like, if you get to the whole verse, you're gonna see she could really rap. So it's like there was this like baity version of that where it's like you need to get people to stay on the video, and part of that is gonna be negative feedback, right? And I think for a lot of artists, because we're sensitive about our shit, that is like a process that I got really nervous about. I'm like, almost 1 million people watch this. There's like 400 or 500 comment threads on one comment of people arguing like back and forth about, do I deserve to be on this platform or even rapping at all, and all of this stuff, which is a great conversation to have in general. And I do a lot have those conversations on my Instagram. So that was able, like, I was able to be like, let's have this conversation on a different platform, move all these people onto another platform. So I find that there is a little baity thing with TikTok where it's like, you can curate your content to like get people to argue. And you see that a lot on TikTok when you're just scrolling on your For You page. You'll see like, whether it's like a relationship bait, like some girlfriend's like trying to purposely piss off her boyfriend, and then there are people in the comments arguing like, is this a good thing or not? But then there are also videos that have gone really well for me that are just me rapping a verse over like a Star Wars beat or something that's like interesting. So I think at this point, I'm trying to like balance it a little bit of like, this is my actual skill, and like, this is something short and sweet that like, I know a lot of people are going to watch over and over and over again. But inevitably the short and sweet ones that like catch people's attention are the ones that are going to go viral. It's just like, can you merge that content with your actual skill? So when people see the short and sweet thing, they also recognize that you're really good at what you do, and then they want to follow you to see more. So that has been kind of like this balance thing that I've been going through.
That must be fascinating. So you're really having to think about like, how do I grab people's attention to make sure they're not just straight past it, right? And when you're
that's what it's designed to do.
Yeah. So has that affected how you write records now? Do you feel like you've learned a few key lessons? I know you mentioned that you've been testing out verses and stuff, but do you feel it's worked its way into your whole creative process, or the way you think about building a record?
Well, yeah, I think at first it was just like fun, and I just really wanted to be able to rap every day on different people's things. But now it's like I'm about to put out a project, and the goal is to get as many people wanting to listen to my music as possible. So now, like on TikTok, you have to start rapping immediately. Like there should be a 1-2 beats, and then you should be rapping. Like people are not going to stay for a long intro, right? Like if they're just scrolling like this, they want to immediately see you rapping. So that's like one thing that I've learned is like, do not take the time to have like a intro or a funny thing. Like you need to capture people's attention within the first literal 2 seconds. So just start rapping immediately. That's been a thing. The 15 seconds or less is a really big deal as well. I do put up some like 60-second verses every once in a while, just to engage the core fans that are there to actually hear me rap. But the 15-second ones inevitably do better because the algorithm on TikTok rewards you if people keep watching it over and over again. So if they can get to the end and start again, the algorithm's like, yes, beautiful. Let's keep pushing this to more people. So keeping them short as well. And then the lyrics on the screen was another really big deal. When I started seeing engagement a lot more is when you're rapping or when you're singing, like people want to be able to read what you're saying while you're saying it. And that takes a lot of time, and people skip that step. Like a lot of other MCs that I know that are on TikTok are just like, I don't want to spend 30 minutes putting up the lyric after I'm done the video. But I'm like, that's going to maybe be the difference between 15,000 more people watching it, you know? So that extra 30 minutes is really worth it.
That's amazing. Really fascinating. Like I haven't played with the TikTok, so it's so interesting just hearing all of this. Kate, I think you mentioned TikTok is a messy bee who lives for drama. Would you agree that's kind of like how it feels in there? And then Danny, like we're talking about, like, I think you specifically said the word wholesome, like your audience and stuff. It tends to be like people hang out because there's like a warm community vibe. So I guess, what's your response to Lex's experience on TikTok? And how do you then like build that kind of nurturing feeling with your audience? And I'm curious as well how you handle the inevitable troll that might turn up.
And that's a great I've only recently joined TikTok as well, and I'm doing my very best not to cause any drama. I know I've got to learn from Lex. I'm gonna channel my inner Lex moving forward. I think that my reason for joining TikTok again was how you could co-create with people, and so many people have, because we've met on Twitch, decided to cover my tunes on different streams, which has been magical. There's been demand for me to release instrumentals so people can be making whatever, and I'm like, go for it. Everyone make beautiful art and beautiful music all the time. And so TikTok, because that duet feature, my plan is to just be leaving space for people so that we can actually jam. On Sundays when I'm learning songs, I'll share the chords with everybody. If anybody wants to learn a song with me, that's what you can do right now. And so they'll say, oh yeah, I'm jamming with you right now. And like, how magical would it be for me to actually be able to see that? That'd be so, so cool. So that's my reason for being in that space. But the lack of moderation does scare me because I am completely protected right now on Twitch from anybody who comes into the community to do any of us harm. We have 9 people who have stepped up to offer to moderate the stream. So they do everything from timing people out if they see questionable comments, to banning people from the chat if they're behaving inappropriately. They help moderate the song queue for me when things get too crazy. They look through channel point redeems if somebody's claimed something, remind me if there's really important things that are happening in the chat. We're even on Discord while I'm live, flagging certain things for me to see. It's insane, and all of those people just kind of found me this year and decided that they wanted to spend a lot of time with me and offered to moderate the stream. So It's a really, really great place to be able to give people that kind of access and editor access as well. You can give editor access to people. They can go through your VODs and edit the VODs for you. And so you'll see even my YouTube presence now. We record all of our YouTube videos on stream because, again, that was another thing that I'd have to do was to, well, there's only so many hours in the day. So I was like, you know what? We're going to record together. You decide what song we're going to record today. I'm going to turn off all the overlays. So it's like everything that you see online and everything that I'm doing right now, it's completely a community effort. All of the videos, even half of the things that I've shared on TikTok so far, we've all been recording them together while we're live. So there's ways of getting practice in. And
that's really genius. So you're basically during Twitch, you're saying, okay, we're going to hit record now.
Yeah.
And then you carry on, but you're doing it on Twitch. And then that content can get repurposed to other streams.
Absolutely. Yeah. And OBS now has
brilliant.
this option where I can, so I'm through a virtual camera right now to you, but I can be streaming and recording simultaneously. So I can just hit record while I'm live. It's going to save that video to my computer, and then we just upload that to YouTube, grab a 60-second clip of when I'm normally live looping. So it takes a while to build the loops, but towards the end, grab that 60-second clip, save it across multiple platforms, and it saves me an enormous amount of time to do it that way for sure.
That's wild. And it's your community that's actually doing the editing and uploading for you and everything? Or are you still having to do a ton of that yourself?
Oh, I still do all of the uploading, but I have a couple of mods that like to edit VODs just to keep highlights because, of course, they only stay on Twitch for 2 months. So they'll often go in before I have the chance just to highlight that section. And then we'll take a look and see what we can use as a teaser for all of the other platforms.
That's amazing. And I did want to ask you a little bit more about, we're kind of having the more business-oriented Hal round, and you've mentioned monetizing and stuff on Twitch, and that also your teaching stuff used to be separate to you as an artist. I really like what you were saying earlier about realizing that when you don't need to keep these two things separate, it kind of simplifies your life a lot. But you just specifically mentioned there as well, you're doing a mix of covers and your own music. Has this whole process been a great way to build momentum behind your own music? Do you feel, is there any kind of a dichotomy between your own music and covers when you're doing those, or has that whole process of ensuring your own artistic voice is, as a writer, is coming through as well?
Well, I think so many people are coming through because they want to hear songs that they recognize, and I think that's a lot of us get used to doing covers. If we're going to make money to be affording to go to a studio and make an album, I'm doing cover music. I'm doing background music. Those are the kinds of gigs that I'm getting. So it's kind of that same vibe on the internet as people want to hear songs that they've already heard before they're going to give you a chance to listen to your original stuff. So even what Lex is doing is genius in mixing this Snoop Dogg song, and now this is what I'm able to do on top of that. My live show before this year was me and a guitar. And now you see there's a whole lot of stuff around. So even this concept of learning instruments in front of people, I try desperately in between streams to try to make it so that I understand what's going on. But some streams I'll just say like, you just use channel points to unlock a new instrument I don't know how to play. So let's just learn this in front of all of you right now. We're just going to throw all that out of the window. People love that. And so even when it comes to cover music, they want to hear your spin on it. So live looping is something I've only learned how to do this year, learning all these instruments, just making sound and wondering what it's going to sound like in the end. And I think people are much more invested in the original music that I'm going to be releasing. We just did a teaser for the first new song that I'll be showing anybody this year, and people kind of lost their minds. Like, they're way more invested than I've ever experienced in my life. Like, typically you're begging people to come to your CD release. Like, I will drive an hour and a half to drop you a ticket. I'll give it to you for half price. Like, you just do anything to get people to shows, and now people are just constantly asking when the next album is going to be released. So I feel much more compelled to actually be writing in a way that I probably wouldn't have felt this year without all of these lovely people.
That's amazing. Thanks for that. I think we're just coming up on time, but Jermaine, I have one final question for you, which is, I feel like every question I've asked you has been a little bit from my hermit kind of point of view in my tiny studio where I don't go out and don't see anyone. So I just love to ask you, like, if there's anything else that anything you can share with us, which has been beyond the scope of my limited questions so far.
I don't even know how to answer that, man. I thought you did a really great job. I thought your questions were poignant. I
Okay.
think that it's important that, I don't know, to sum everything up. The thing that I really, again, want to echo is how great and amazing musicians are, and how durable they are within everything that's happening, within what the challenges that they might face. They have the ability to recreate and to find a way to push through. And bringing it into Canada, the support that you have, be it from things like Factor or Ontario Creates, or there's so many ways that you can really continue to make something more of what the situation might be for you. And, you know, hearing from Danielle, hearing from Lex, the ways that they're using the platforms is very special and amazing. And I hope that the individuals that are on this chat are also doing that same thing for themselves, because I know that it doesn't have to be 10 followers. It doesn't have to be $100,000. It just has to start. And that consistency is so important. And that might bring you outside of your hermit cave, but it might keep you in that hermit cave, because there's a lot of individuals that have stayed where they are and they're just fine. There's nothing that says you need to be out there, you need to be this big aspect or big person. As long as it's consistent and it's good for you, keep at it. That's all that matters here.
Amazing. I love it, Jermaine. All right. Is that a good point for us to sum up? Our Megaphono organizers, let us know. Do we hand it back to you? We are right on time. My Swiss German grandmother would be proud.
This is perfect timing, Damien. Just want to say thank you to all of you, to you, Damien, to Danielle, Lex, and Jermaine. This was so incredible. I learned a ton myself, and I'm hoping to apply it in my own work too. And I think, just judging by the chat that's coming by, we were streaming to YouTube as well, and we had a ton of viewers in there. This has been great, and we really appreciate you all being willing to come on and share your knowledge. And thank you so much. And just for everyone, we have a showcase coming up at 12:45, linked over through the Megaphono YouTube channel, which you should be able to find easily, or through MEGAPHONO.CA, followed by another panel in the afternoon. I believe it starts at 2:45, which is also same idea through side door ticketing, but all the links are on the Megaphono website. And then finally, a networking party in our gather space. I just dropped the link in the chat for everyone to access it, from 6 to 7. If you haven't been in there yet, check it out. It is weird and cool and really fun. And then our final showcase tonight at 7:30 p.m. To close off the festival. Also wonderful showcasing artist performance as part of that. We've got a comedy short as part of it. Hope you all can tune in and hang out. And thank you so much.
C'est le mercredi 26 mai. Bienvenue à Megaphono.
Hey, yo, come on, you made this shit right here?
It's Wednesday, May 26th. Welcome to Megaphono.